Hello and welcome everybody to Spoiler Warning with myself, Tom Colohue. We are live on both YouTube and on Twitch. We'll be talking about a number of big wrestling news stories, primarily, first and foremost, the future of Bianca Belair's title reign with the Raw Women's Championship. I also have updates on, as many people have asked here, a bit on Rhea Ripley, and more as regards stories coming in about Vince McMahon, and I'll be answering your questions as well. This may not be the longest ever installment of Spoiler Warning. I do want to let people know it is 25 degrees here in the UK, and that is not something we are equipped for. The UK is equipped for the cold, so my house is so well insulated that heat literally cannot escape. So the second any heat gets in my house, I'm going to have to deal with it for the rest of my life. We also have two PCs, a TV, and a ring light, and an actual light, all making this room very warm. Just very warm. So this may not be the longest show we've ever done. However, spoiler warning. Welcome everyone. Big thank you to everyone who's already said hi. We have, on the YouTube side, we have Simon asking about Sasha Banks, and Simon asking about Sasha Banks. We also have Reus, Bakurakura, Ryuatsuki, let me know if I've done that wrong, saying, is Tom dated? It is indeed. Welcome, mate. Wrestler Fan says, will there be any kickoff matches on SummerSlam? None are planned for SummerSlam at this point in time. No kickoff matches currently in the listing. Wiggly says, and his name is Tom Colohue. Do. I'm a bit disappointed you didn't go all the way there, Wiggly. What are you doing? What are you doing to me? What are you doing? Spider-Boss says, hello, Tom. Any update on Rhea Ripley's return? Yeah, last I knew was about a week and a half ago. Last I heard was about a week and a half ago, and it was that the WWE is still taking it carefully. They are still conducting a number of tests, and the WWE simply are not certain at this point in time as to how best to proceed. From Rhea's perspective, she wants to get back in the ring, she wants to get back into action, but the WWE are taking their time, going through a full period of tests as is required with a head injury. Wiggly says, Asuka uploaded a great video the other day of her going on a shopping trip. Basically, all her videos are fantastic. She's an incredibly entertaining person. Connor says, hello, Tom. Hello, Connor. And that does remind me, thank you, Connor, for saying hello. If you're watching on YouTube, there are currently free channel memberships waiting in limbo that have been gifted by Connor. You can get them for absolutely free. All you got to do is opt in, which is an option right at the top of the chat. As long as you click opt in first, you will get one of those free memberships that is currently waiting in limbo. As soon as someone clicks opt-in, they will get a free channel membership worth about £5, and they will not have to pay a penny. Spider-Boss says, with the lack of women babyfaces on SmackDown, I think Bayley should go to the blue brand. I agree. My expectation is that we will see Bayley versus Charlotte shortly. Wiggly hours, just waiting to come on. Spider-Boss says, Paul Heyman announced that Extreme Rules will be in Philadelphia this year. Sounds good to me, and he's the ideal person for it. Also, it's too early, but my predictions for SummerSlam are all champions retain and Pat McAfee beats Corbin. I definitely don't see Pat McAfee beating Corbin. Interesting. Connor says, the heat is ridiculous. You are not wrong. It's still 25 degrees, and it is past 10 o'clock at night. Johnny, how you doing? Says, hey, Tom, hope you're good, mate. I am very good, thank you. I spent most of today in a paddling pool, which is, the good life. Spider-Boss says, I hope Rhea is the one who beats Bianca for the title. Seems likely. Say that. Seems likely, but more to come on that. Jane says, hey Tom, any Sasha news? Nothing at the moment. Who do you think is going to return to SummerSlam, Bayley or Charlotte or both? Charlotte. I definitely think Charlotte will be retaining. Hypnosis Bro says, why are people working themselves into disappointment with the Fiend Edge debate? It's Edge, end off. I have no idea. No idea at all. It is really quite simple. It's Edge. It's not the Fiend. It's Edge. It's not Bray Wyatt, it's Edge. And after all, we'll be seeing Edge relatively soon. There was talk about him having a SummerSlam match. That doesn't seem like it's happening now. But he is due back very shortly. Spider-Boss says, can WWE let Rhea be on ringside in Finn Balor's matches? Yes. Not sure they will, though. And hello, BM on t'other side. I'm guessing because you didn't see me on one side, you came over to the t'other? Welcome. And for those who are watching on YouTube, please do remember to hit like on the video. It makes a big difference to the growth of the channel and really does have a positive impact on what we're doing. We currently have 1,249 subscribers. 1,249, meaning one more gets us to 1,250. One more subscriber gets us to 1,250. Bailey says, Tom, who do you see as the next 2 or 3 call-ups? Braun Breaker and Toxic Attraction. And Connor says, it's not the corner, it's an edge. Lovely. Spider Boss says, I have dealing with ice weather conditions in Chile. Spoiler warning, makes my day better. Wow. Rough time. But over hemisphere, what can I say? Wrestler Fan says, how long will SummerSlam go? Around about 4 hours, but there is expected to be a small overrun if need be that gives them another 15 minutes or so. They really want to go all out with Roman versus Brock. JJ says, hey Tom, why are they doing Becky versus Bianca again instead of Bianca versus Carmella? Well, about to jump into that, but let's see beforehand. Ed, thank you very kindly for renewing your Prime subscription for a 17th month. My very first subscriber, my very first follower, and etc. So 17 months of supporting the man with everyone else's plans. Mr. Colohue, the man with everyone else's plans. That's a line. Thank you kindly for renewing that subscription, sir. I'm honoured that you continue to support. Michael says, hi Tom. Hello, Michael. And Simon says, Bianca versus Carmella is tonight again. It is. More on that story very shortly. Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. Might be worth it, mate. Might be worth it. So, okay, Spider-Boss says, why WWE have extended the Bianca versus Carmella matches? That plays into exactly what I'm about to say. So let's talk about it. The WWE's plan for SummerSlam seems to be a rematch between not Sasha Banks, god damn it. I see Sasha Banks in the name in the chat and it just confuses me. A rematch between Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. This will be the third in their series of 3, which allows us to conclusively say that the plan is for Bianca Belair to win, retain, and carry on. Now, the plan was put together a while ago. This is something that they were always particularly planning, but it did allow them to change the plan from Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey and allow Liv Morgan that opportunity. The trade-off for that was Becky going back into the title scene. Now, a large part of this comes down to the WWE not having too much confidence in the current opponents lined up for Bianca Belair. They don't want Alexa Bliss to turn heel. They don't want Asuka to turn heel. So with the absence of Rhea Ripley, who would have had a prolonged feud with Bianca Belair and likely left with the championship, Becky Lynch has stepped back into the breach. The WWE are currently still running Bianca versus Carmella as a distraction in order to try and keep things separate and to keep you from believing that Becky Lynch is stepping into it. But the reason for Becky Lynch to defeat Asuka was a rebuild ready to challenge once again Bianca Belair. That is the plan for SummerSlam as far as I'm aware and as far as it most recently was put together. This, of course, from myself, the guy who announced that Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair was a plan for SummerSlam last year, February last year, so 6 months before it happened. And you'll know this because all of these videos where I mention this exact news is still up and ready. So, Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair at SummerSlam, with Bianca Belair retaining. Becky Lynch has recovered only briefly from the malaise that she has encountered recently, and in doing so, she lines up against the EST one more time. For her part, Carmella is expected to slowly fade into the background after tonight. She was only briefly there to fill a gap, but the WWE are starting to get a little concerned when it comes to opponents for Bianca Belair. The original plan, a couple of months ago, was Naomi. That did not pan out. Then it was Rhea Ripley. That did not pan out, meaning that Bianca Belair's championship run so far has not been against the opponents that they were looking for. Becky Lynch is stepping into the breach to sort of steady the ship as much as anything. And we have high hopes when it comes to this match, because let's be honest, much like Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, you know you're going to get a great match. You know you are going to get a great match when it comes to Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. So it's going to deliver, and I'm very excited for it. Johnny says, I hope this match with Brock and Roman is more physical and maybe some blood. With this being built to be the last match, the match itself should reflect that. I agree. I've mentioned previously that both men are hoping to absolutely go to war with this one. I hope the WWE and particularly Vince permit that, and we're ready to go. Michael says, that's moving over with Sasha and Naomi must not be going well. Indeed, very much so. It's really not gone the way they were hoping for, has it? Naomi has turned down a contract approach from the WWE. And while it isn't official by any stretch of the imagination that Sasha Banks has been released, certainly the fact that she's taking bookings does not say good things about the future. Now, I've spoken about that and how it's essentially a calling of the bluff But still, it's not a great position to be in. Hypnosis Bro says, if Becky versus Bianca is happening at SummerSlam, they should 1000% add a stipulation of if Becky loses, she can't challenge Bianca for the title again. This would be Becky's second time challenging Bianca Belair in total for the title. The first time was a year ago at SummerSlam and lasted, 26 seconds? So I get what you're saying, that she should never challenge for the title again, but this is only the second time. So I don't think it's as excessive as you seem to think it is. Simon says Edge is back tonight apparently in Raw. What's your source for that, Simon? What's your source that he's back for Raw tonight? I went for the Signature Series weekly. Cool, looking forward to it. Sean says, does Liv pin Ronda? No. No, but they find some way out of it. That's not going to happen. Spider-Boss says, what is next for Becky once she loses to Bianca? I suspect Alexa Bliss might be wheeling into the picture, but it could be that she spends a little bit of time waiting for the draft and something goes a bit crazy. I'd like it to be Becky versus Bayley now. That's what I want. That's what I think we all deserve. Tom Talks Rubbish says, just reached out to Nick Dinsmore for a possible interview for my 100th interview, and he quoted me $100. Is this reasonable? Tom, I don't believe your channel is monetized as of yet. I don't believe you have 1,000 subscribers. I don't believe you have 4,000 watch hours. I could be wrong. But I see you celebrating certain landmarks, and you're doing very well, but I don't believe you have 1,000 subscribers yet. With this in mind, so far you've earned nothing from YouTube. You certainly haven't earned $100. For the relatable context, I would say that that's not reasonable. That's what I would say personally. Spider-Boss says, I hope we can know soon why Sasha couldn't be at SummerSlam 2021. I don't think we will ever know the real reason for that, and I think those people who do know won't be telling anyway. JJ says, so they ended Becky versus Asuka so they can redo Becky versus Bianca. I love the Becky versus Asuka feud. Becky and Asuka had more matches than Becky and Bianca have had, and they did so in a much shorter amount of time. Much shorter amount of time. I'm sure we will see Asuka involved again soon. She is currently tagging with Alexa Bliss, which is new and different, and I don't hate it. So I'm sure we will see more Becky and Asuka, but we've seen a lot of Becky versus Asuka matches, even going back to the Royal Rumble 2019. They've all been a lot of fun, but I could do with moving on now. Wrestler Fan says, will Edge be appearing at SummerSlam? I expect so, yes. That dog says they might be able to go to TV14. They could have blood during the match. Once again, TV14 would be a rating for USA and SmackDown. The actual pay-per-view, SummerSlam for example, is on Peacock, and thus would require a different agreement with Peacock before they'll be able to bleed on it intentionally. There's a bit more working out to do. Spider-Boss also hopes this match of Becky versus Bianca is the last one and doesn't turn into a female version of Roman versus Brock. Once again, it is only the third time they've had this match in a singles match to my knowledge, and that's over the course of a full year. It is not the same as Roman versus Brock, not even slightly. They've had, 4 matches already this year? Gura says, hi Tom. Hey Gura, how you doing, mate? Razar says, why can't they just do Bianca versus Asuka? They didn't have a problem with face versus face when they wanted Naomi to face her, but it's a problem with Asuka. Asuka has recently returned and they want to maintain momentum for her. There's no reason they can't necessarily do it. They may be planning to do it after SummerSlam, but they've chosen Becky at this point in time. Simon says, is it going to be Alexa versus Bianca clash in the Castle in Wells in September? I'm not sure. We don't know if Rhea's going to be back at that time. We don't know if Bayley's going to be involved. We don't know what's happening. We don't know if they extend Bianca versus Becky. So I cannot speculate at that point. Jay says, I need Bayley on Raw to feud with Becky. It's been long overdue. There's a lot of good options for Bayley. Just a lot of very good options for Bayley. Becky's the one I'm most excited about, and the one I would hope to see sooner rather than later. However, they need people on SmackDown right now. We need to have Bayley versus Ronda. We need that. Bayley versus Charlotte, maybe. We need Bayley versus Lacey. We need a combination of things. But I think Bayley is needed much more on SmackDown right now, and we'll go there. Hello, Noob. How you doing? Simon, once again, I've said this so many times, and I'll say it again. Bianca versus Becky is hardly a feud that we've seen 16 times. We've seen 2 singles matches. 1 triple threat? 2 triple threats. One was Sasha Banks. One of them was Asuka. So what? 4 matches? I don't think it's the problem that you guys say it is. I really don't. Connor, thank you. Bringing in a source says Fightful have said Edge returns next week on Raw. We were expecting him. Spider-Boss also clarifies, according to Fightful, Edge will be returning to Raw at MSG on July 25th. Makes perfect sense. We've seen lots of vignettes for Edge, and we were expecting him back to sort of kickstart the feud with Finn Balor. Simon says all it is WrestleMania rematches. Okay, so we get that with Brock versus Roman. We get that with Becky versus Bianca. The Usos versus the Street Profits? No. The Miz and Ciampa versus Logan Paul and AJ Styles? No, bit different. Potentially Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre? No. Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey? That's not all it is, Simon. That's not all it is. Jaden says, I think Ronda is going to beat Liv and nobody's going to expect it, mark my words. Literally, the vast majority of people I've spoke to expect that, so there'll be no marking of those words. Noob says, I believe that Bayley might cost Becky the match against Bianca. I don't think she would do that because they're expecting her to come back as a face, and that does not make sense for a face. Hypnosis Bro says, Becky versus Bayley is my dream feud. It's almost positive it's not happening until 2024. If they leave it much longer, it ain't going nowhere. Johnny Mendez says, WWE tweeting about the Usos' year-long SmackDown tag title reign, basically saying that both titles are still active, confirms your earlier reports about the titles separating, or it would seem that way. They are making it up as they go along. I've been talking about it since before WrestleMania. The two championships are not combined. They are not combined. They are two separate championships, but they are occasionally defended together. Dimitar says, Tom, here is a question for you. Where do you realistically see Sasha going, and where would you personally want her to go? Hollywood? Hollywood. Sean says, hello Tom, how are you on this Monday evening? I'm very warm, mate. I'm very, very warm. This may not be our longest spoiler warning ever because Tom's a cook. Tommy cooking. Noob says we're an hour away on who will be Ric Flair's final opponent. Shame. There shouldn't be one, we all know that. Simon says I've got Sasha's first independent tribute t-shirt from a 4-wearer white medium one, a very nice t-shirt. Cool. Wiggly says I want Asuka to win everything. I know, mate. I do expect an Asuka versus Bianca Belair feud at some point soon, but I think we might get Asuka versus Ronda sooner. Michael says Brandon Thurston on the WrestleNomics podcast yesterday said that he's hearing a decision on Vince could be made within the next couple of months. It's interesting because I heard from Wrestling Observer that it's going to be the next couple of weeks. The board is currently actively investigating Vince McMahon. I would expect something within the next month or so. But I think at this point, nobody knows for certain. Nobody knows for certain how long it's going to take. Because, to be blunt, they keep adding more things to investigate. Because someone has not been completely open with the extent of these issues, which of course has meant whenever the Wall Street Journal starts talking again, they kind of have to start again. Tom says, following on, nervous to explain my situation, what do you advise? I advise to be open and honest, say that at current your YouTube is not making direct money, so you're going to have to pass at this time, but maybe you'll return to him in the future if he's open to it. I think that's a nice professional way of doing it, handling the situation without burning any potential bridges. That's what I would say. Thanks for the clarification, Michael, appreciate that. Wiggly says, and what's the final say on what's happening with Io Shirai? Is her NXT career coming to an end? Well, we'll see shortly. We know that Dave Meltzer has reported what he's reported. We know that Io Shirai is not happy with Dave Meltzer's reporting. But personally, I still don't expect we're going to see Io Shirai wrestle all that much on WWE anymore. Austin says, do you think Rick's opponent is honestly... I'm so against... Who do you think Rick's opponent is? Honestly, I'm so against it. And a picture of him putting his boots on, he looked so red and out of breath. Maybe Andrade? I don't know. I hope no one. I hope his final opponent is just the ring itself and he has to try and jump into the ring or climb into the ring. It just does not work. That's all I want. Just don't do it. Spider-Boss says, I never got why Vince decided that Bianca get squashed at SummerSlam 2021 to turn Becky heel. Yeah. That was Bianca's first loss in a long time and one of the only losses she's had on the main roster. One of the only losses she's had on the main roster. They needed it to be a fluke. They needed it, much like Brock Lesnar getting squashed against Goldberg, they needed it to look like a bit of a cheat, a bit of luck, and just a bit of a fluke. It was very effective in that. Sean says, if Liv doesn't pin Ronda, then how does she win? Any other way. For example, a count-out, a disqualification. Any other possible way. Sean says, do you see the reports of the allegations that were brought up against AEW referee Aubrey Edwards? I have not seen any allegations for Aubrey Edwards, I should say. None whatsoever. Please tell me more. Spider-Boss says, Bayley fit well last spot that Sasha left on SmackDown. Yes, she would indeed. Code Red says, Judgment Day versus Rey and Dom at SummerSlam or Judgment Day versus Edge and Rey. I thought we would have gotten Balor versus Edge, but it would feel last minute if Edge returns next week. Maybe the next pay-per-view. I would say so, yes. Finn Balor's obviously going to be very, very popular going back to the UK. Very popular indeed. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some star billing. Balor versus Edge seems perfect for Clash at the Castle. Meanwhile, there is a storyline playing out with Rey and Dominic. I don't know what might happen with Edge's return, if it is in fact planned for next week. But I do know that there is a crosshair on Finn Balor's back now. Simon says, Becky versus Bianca faced each other in Raw in singles matches multiple times at the back end of 2021 going into 2022. Okay, I still don't think it's as bad as you think it is. There we go, Hypnosis Pro's got the actual stats. 7th match in a year. Still don't think it's anywhere near as bad as Brock versus Roman, but I do appreciate you bringing the stats in there. It is slightly more than I thought it was. 4 singles matches, 2 triple threat matches. Spider-Boss says, what is the plan for Dolph Ziggler now he returned? He is going to be mentoring Austin Theory. Now, this is obviously quite a big deal for someone like Austin Theory. We have a very, very experienced person in Dolph Ziggler who's going to be providing some mentoring, going to be providing some competition, and he's going to be hovering around the briefcase. Johnny says, I didn't know WWE needed permission for blood on their pay-per-views. They do. Peacock has its own individual ratings that the WWE cannot be TV14 on. They need to speak to Peacock and make that happen. If we're assuming that the discussion on TV14 for Raw will relate to SummerSlam, we are gravely mistaken. Hypnosis Pro says, the biggest what if in wrestling will be what if Sasha wins the Rumble and pulls the ultimate swerve. Is that the ultimate swerve? I think CM Punk is still the ultimate swerve. Certainly it'd be interesting. I mean, that might be why there's no wrestling bookings until January, because in January she has wrestling bookings with WWE. Jane says Logan Paul is going to be at Raw. Cool. Megan has given some clarification. Becky and Bianca in 2022 on screen, just in 2022. Becky and Doudrop versus Bianca and Liv, January 17th. Bianca, Liv and Rhea versus Becky, Doudrop and Nikki, February 28th. Becky versus Bianca, WrestleMania Night 1. Asuka, Bianca and Liv versus Becky, Rhea and Sonya, May 2nd. And Bianca versus Asuka versus Becky, Money in the Bank. So certainly very few singles matches, but I get what people are saying. I appreciate you setting me right there, quite a few of you. I still don't think it's as excessive that I'm bored of it. I'm certainly in no way bored of it. But I do get what you're saying, and that is a fair comment. Thank you, Megan, for the clarification as well. Steve, how you doing, mate? It says, Colohue, happy heatwave. My question for you is, would you like to see another wrestling show on a beach one day, like WCW did for Bash at the Beach in 1995? Yes and no. Firstly, I don't think that format really works for the crowd. You just don't get to see too much, and there's not going to be that big a crowd anyway. Secondly, too much sand. Like a couple of body slams and you're blind. For anyone who's ever had sex on a beach, that shit stings. That's all I'll say. For anyone who hasn't done it and is thinking, oh, that'd be a great idea. It's not. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's not romantic. It's itchy. It's itchy. Just don't do it. Don't do it. But I don't mind it for a one-off. Could be quite fun for something like that, but I prefer it for a Raw or a SmackDown. Honestly, I think NXT is the best bet for it. For everyone currently watching on YouTube, 3 things. Firstly, click like. Secondly, if you don't currently have a membership, would you like a free one? Connor, at our last show on Friday, gave us 5 free channel memberships. 2 of them were used. 3 of them are still waiting in limbo. So if you click opt-in right at the top of the chat, you will receive a completely free channel membership. As a result of that, Tom Colohue gets a little bit of money, and you get access to our members-only videos. And there'll be more members-only videos going on as I continue to record some new and interesting behind-the-scenes stuff. And finally, subscribe. We're currently sitting at 1,249 subscribers. One more, just one more, and we get to 1,250, which feels like a milestone to me. Simon says, Pat McAfee in a celebrity match, same as Mania. Yes, but he is... What? No. Pat McAfee in a celebrity match. Yeah, he's a celebrity, mate. So every match he's ever going to have is a celebrity match. He's a celebrity. Logan Paul in a ring with Miz. Yes, but he's an opponent now. It's not the same. Wrestler fan says, is Brock Lesnar going to be a Clash at the Castle? They do like to bring him in for big stadium shows. I don't believe so, no. To my knowledge, he is not booked for Clash at the Castle. Wrestler fan says, is Brock... I've already read that one. Even though Bro says the biggest what if in... I've already read that one. You've already said that one. You're just repeating yourself. Noob says, remember what Asuka on RawTalk said, that she doesn't need to win every time, but she always has a great time. She knows the business of wrestling. She does indeed. Jane said it's Mandy's birthday. Happy birthday, Mandy. Wiggly says Ric Flair versus... And they both get taken away and banned from TV forever. Hopefully, let's not have them wrestle at all, though. Let's have them just be banned anyway. JJ says Becky and Bianca had like 3 triple threat matches. 2. And like 2 singles matches. 2. Becky was mostly on commentary and Bianca had other matches, which is fair and definitely may create the feeling of it being too much. Razar says, is Drew vs Sheamus going to be on SummerSlam? If so, I find it interesting that they'll find a way to get certain people in the card no matter what, like Drew, and not try with others a la Bayley at WrestleMania last year. Wasn't Bayley injured at WrestleMania? She was injured at WrestleMania this year. Jane says she also lost to Sasha. Who, Bianca? I did say one of the only, not the only. Wiggly says, how come we don't do the 24/7 title on here anymore? That was a while back. Since going dual stream, it's just been very difficult to keep up with channel points. And it's also something that we could do on Twitch, but not something that we can do on YouTube. So I'm still considering options for it. I'd like to bring them back, but I just haven't been able to work out effective ways of doing it that don't sort of impact heavily against people on YouTube. Spider-Boss says, my guess on Liv versus Ronda is Charlotte come out and attack Liv, the DQ ending, and Liv retain. Yeah, I think Charlotte attacks them both. I think Charlotte attacks both women. That'll be a wonderful triple threat, which allows, of course, Liv to retain again for Clash at the Castle. Makes you think, oh, Ronda's getting it back, and then makes you think, oh, Charlotte's getting it back. Either way, you're never going to think, oh, Liv's retaining. Then she retains. Simon says, okay, here we go. Says, all the WWE is constantly push Bianca, Ronda, Charlotte, Becky, bar Liv, obviously. So you're saying all the WWE does is constantly push Liv? I mean, that's ridiculous. It's not true because you've forgotten about Alexa Bliss. Remember Alexa Bliss? Remember that? Remember? Naomi had a pretty good run against Sonya Deville. Remember? Remember that? Remember the Doudrop versus Becky Lynch match? That was pretty handy. Asuka just got a pretty good run against Becky. Pushed Asuka pretty hard. Maybe stop and think. Spider-Boss says, Dolph Ziggler could be Theory's mouthpiece. Theory does not need a mouthpiece, so that's not the plan. The plan is not to team them up, but have them work against each other. Jaden is not bored of Bianca versus Becky. I'm not either. Spider-Boss says, Sasha coming back to WWE 2 days before the 2023 Royal Rumble would shock the world. It would also shock the world if she came back now, or at the Royal Rumble, or 6 years from now. All true. JJ says, y'all. Sean says, Becky, Alexa, Miz, Theory, AJ and Lashley are doing public autograph signings for SummerSlam on July 28th through July 30th. Some big names there and people that you really should be very excited to get the opportunity with. When it comes to AJ, I think that's the one that's going to fly off the shelves. But Alexa Bliss, as we know, very popular. I don't think you'll get the motorbikes, Wiggly. I definitely don't think that. Spider-Boss says Ric Flair versus Andrade with Charlotte a special guest referee. Charlotte would not be allowed to, but who would she cheat for? Can they possibly coexist? JJ has clarified. You'll complain when WWE do start pushing new people, so what do you all expect? They're going to rely on who they know is good. Very true, very true. People are still complaining, even though Liv's getting the push now. Still just complaining away. And, you know, Asuka came back in a pretty good head of steam. Nah, nobody's happy with it. Alexa's doing pretty well since she came back. Yeah, but they always push Sasha. Just picked a name there. Oh, and of course, Rhea's getting a decent push. She's just injured right now. She would have had the match last month. Well, earlier this month. Jaden says, do you think Rhea is still beating Bianca for the title? Yes, I do. Hypnosis Pro says, what do you think of Jeff Jarrett being the guest referee? Honestly saw it from the SummerSlam intro. Had a guitar and a similar hat he used to wear, and it's in Nashville. I think it sucks. I think it's pandering. I don't get the point. Unless the whole hope is that they'll have a guitar nearby so that Angelo Dawkins can whack Montez Ford in the head on it. That'd work. Sean says, do we get champion versus champion at Survivor Series? That's still the plan. I don't know how we're going to get there, but that is still the plan. Megan says, I don't think that's many for Becky and Bianca at all. Liv and Doudrop have faced each other 9 times on TV this year in various forms, for example. Very true. Sai, welcome, mate. Says, hi, Tom, and all. Hope you're all well. Jaden says, I love Bayley and Becky on commentary. Yeah, they add a lot to it. They really do add a lot to it. Welcome, Sai. How you doing, mate? You have already sent me the SummerSlam one, haven't you? The overlay. I remember you saying that they changed the scheme. Having looked at it recently, I'm not sure that they did. I think it worked perfectly. If not, let me know. I mean, whatever works for you. Wiggly says, who is the final 24/7 champ? If the belt is unclaimed, it's mine. I believe it was Jay Quick. I believe so. Sean says, Bayley was at WrestleMania last year. She was attacked by the Bellas. She was. She wasn't actively wrestling there, but that's not the worst thing in the world. There's only so many slots. Sai says to Simon, if you pin all your hopes on one person, then you'll be let down when literally anyone else is pushed. Very true. Very true. Wiggly says WWE should push Asuka more. They just did. Went pretty well. Spider-Boss says Liv defeating Ronda and Charlotte can be a big swerve because most fans think that Liv will lose. Yeah, most fans think Liv is going to lose every match that involves Ronda. Most fans think Ronda is unbeatable, that Charlotte is unbeatable, and really got confused when it was Charlotte versus Ronda. They really got confused. So I do think Liv's going to escape with the championship both times. Sean says, will any of the SmackDown stars be at the Raw MSG show next week? Potentially Roman. Potentially Roman. Roman is apparently has been advertised for that show. Jaden says, I love the whole thing between Bayley and Michael Cole. I hope it'll go on when she returns. Not gonna lie, that's also one of the reasons I really hope that Bayley comes back to SmackDown. Jaden says, I didn't really like Rhea's last run as Raw Women's Champion. It wasn't the strongest. It definitely wasn't the strongest, but we are where we are on that one. Jaden says, do you think Rhea will be champion by Survivor Series? I cannot begin to speculate on that one because we don't know the extent of her current injury. And Wrestler Fan says, do you see any surprises for SummerSlam? Yep, absolutely. There'll be surprises. Spider-Boss says, Sasha's crew is never happy. Sasha had good matches during 2019 and 2022, but Sasha's crew is still complaining. Yep. The crew are never happy, that's a fact. Sean says, do you think Nikita Lyons wins the Battle Royal at NXT tomorrow? I have absolutely no idea. I don't know enough about NXT to really speculate. Megan says, imagine if NXT was in Survivor Series, they did it next. Roman versus Braun. Liv versus Bianca versus Mandy. Ooh. Usos versus Creed Brothers. Lashley versus Gunter versus Hayes. Those alone could be fun with just chaos for the rest. I think the most exciting thing for me at the moment when it comes to Survivor Series is the idea of Gunter versus Lashley. That's all. Joey says, who is a female that's going to join Max Dupree's stable? I don't know. I can't begin to speculate. Steve suggests Ginny is his pick for Maxine Dupree. Spider-Boss says, with my friends we call Bayley the pride of Latinos. Okay, whatever floats your boat, mate. And Hypnosis Bro says, Becky versus Ronda is going to have to start building towards that match at Survivor Series. Team Becky versus Team Ronda would be a good start. They wouldn't do Team Becky and Team Ronda. More likely it'd be a Team Becky versus Team Charlotte. However, it is very much a case that we are getting Team Raw and Team SmackDown, and that whoever's there is there. Oh no, sorry, I do have the overlay. I just remember you saying something like, oh, they've changed it, I'll have to update it. And just wanting to double check. I do have the overlay. Absolutely I do. Just wanting to be clear on that. I do have it. Joey says, is Volta going to have a SummerSlam match? Yes, Volta versus Shinsuke Nakamura is in the works for SummerSlam. Okay, guys. I'm going to call it there. I need to explain. I'm really hot. Like, I'm shiny. Oh, God, that's bad. Oh, that's bad. I'm not doing well. Not doing well at the moment. So I'm going to wrap it up. Steve says, do you see Ronda Rousey going to Raw in the upcoming WWE draft? Yes, I do. And Megan says, Ginny's my pick for Maxine. Already has that character down as a fashionista. we're going to wrap it up there. It's going to be a shorter one because of, and I'm going to basically try and get a cold shower and see how it goes. But in the meantime, huge thanks to everyone for joining me. Hopefully I got that 1 subscriber. We go to 1250, but I have been gaining quite substantially over the last few days. I'm a very, very happy Tom. Yes, Jaden, there will be a SmackDown watch along. They can also cut a stream short due to the heat. And thank you, Steve. Yes, I'm trying to keep myself pinked up. So, thank you for joining me, everybody. We'll be back on Friday with more spoiler warning. There will be a video on Wednesday. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic. And I'll see you soon.